I got a bug in me that I need to do something like in startup space. Anybody with no technology background, just with a thought and idea, should be able to build something.
Hi, welcome to Initializing AI. This is where we discover and talk about all things tech and AI. Today, we have Mayuresh Krishna, the co-founder of Initializ.ai with us. It's been great talking to you about the various tech updates of the world of AI and AI ops. So far, we have only had such conversations on call, and today we finally get to do it in person. So I'm really excited to see how our discussion goes.
Thank you, Meenakshi. It's great to be here, and thank you for having me over here. I mean, it's been pretty awesome that we have been having calls, chat, even podcasts, kind of sort of podcasts and discussions over Zoom and online. Yeah. It is awesome to do it in person and actually meet you in person and do this over here. Yeah, to introduce myself, my name is Mayuresh Krishna. I go by MK. I think I've created that kind of brand image in everybody's mind at this point.
Yeah, including your outfits.
Including my outfits, yeah. So I am co-founder of Initialize.ai. Let's go a little bit in the history of it. I started off as a developer. Right. In my career, I eventually went towards enterprise architecture, and that's where I got introduced to cloud and cloud computing. And that kind of took me to the journey of cloud and then containers, which introduced me to the whole construct of startups. It happened pretty interestingly where I was working at an enterprise, kind of okay, boring job. I won't complain because that's where I actually started working on cloud. But that got me involved in a lot of cloud community discussions where now I started getting more exposure. I started meeting more people. One of the VPs of a startup called Pivotal Software somehow got connected through this community and was reached out by one of the persons from Pivotal Software to just have a lunch and see if there's some opportunity to do something together.
When was this?
This was later part of 2017, I would say. So eventually he became my manager, showed up in a Jaguar sports utility vehicle, and I was like in a enterprise just hanging out with like regular sedan and chugging away on cloud computing, and he shows up in a really nice Jaguar SUV. I'm like, okay, this is startup life. I think I need to do something about it. We had a nice lunch. We had a good discussion about what I'm doing, what I'm trying to do, if I'm interested in trying something out in startup space. Ended up working with Pivotal Software, which was a fun ride. I joined Pivotal Software in 2018. By the April of 2018, Pivotal Software went IPO. So that was an awesome journey of seeing them. And it was towards the tail end of them going public. So if I had joined maybe 5 years ago, it would have been a pretty awesome ride. But it was fun to see a startup go public. So you can almost think of it as I got a bug in me that I need to do something in startup space. So eventually got into the space where we started Initialize and Initialize.ai.
So you started off in the software deployment zone, and now you're shifting to AI. How did that happen? I understand wanting to start up a startup, but this whole shift and now venturing into AI, what attracted you into getting to AI?
I think at this point, I would say AI has been there for a long time, but the recent advancement after the large language models and GPT came out, it made AI kind of universal. Like everybody can now look at different use cases they can apply because it made it very accessible from the perspective of how you can use it. Earlier, a lot of AI was being done by mostly larger enterprises, larger tech companies. Now it has opened up doors for like anybody can do something with AI. So that was kind of one of the things. It's almost like an opportunity as well. There's an opportunity and the time which kind of collided together and made me think that we should be doing something in AI.
Like as you mentioned, anyone and everyone is doing AI, but why are you doing?
True, everyone is doing AI.
Yeah. We saw 50 startups yesterday of AI.
Yeah. What I would say, what I wanted to do, which was like core part of what I have been doing throughout my career, is staying in the side of building platforms. And the way I can explain it is, I got into cloud computing early. I got into containerization and that side of the world early on, which the whole goal of, even if you think about cloud, is to creating an abstraction of simplicity to provide performance and scalability and quality so that everybody can access it, everybody can use it, and they don't have to become a hardcore infrastructure engineer or cloud engineer to leverage the benefits of technology. Cloud computing did that. The containerization construct was to even further enhance that and simplify that. So I've been in that journey of doing things in a more platform way. And my evolution into doing AI is to, how do I do this same construct, simplify the belly of AI and AI infrastructure so that people can use and build more things on AI easily. And I'm kind of looking at it from the perspective of, great, there are some of these innovations done by companies like OpenAI, Google, Amazon of the world, who are building large language model capabilities which anybody can use. But when you get into the bowels of like trying to do this at large scale, you have to do a lot more complex work to make it happen. And that's what we're trying to abstract and simplify. And that's my journey into going from non-AI platform to still being in the platform and infrastructure, but in the space of AI.
Actually, that is genuinely very interesting. Like, is there why, say, concepts of matrices are getting incorporated into AI now? For example, the LoRa adapters, they use a very simple mathematical concept, right? Just reducing the rank of the matrix and adding it down as a layer. So do you think that's one of the steps that, say, the industry is taking towards like simplifying AI?
Yeah, if you really think of it,
it's a very fundamental
concept.
thing.
It's a very fundamental concept. It did not like start just now.
Yeah.
The whole idea around low rank adaptation has been there.
Yeah.
What I would say, like even things like simple compression matrix, compression algorithms, we would use constructs like low rank adaptation. We would use the basic construct of algebra matrix to do things. Now, when the large language models came out, they were so huge. Like I mean, I think if you look at GPT, I think GPT-4 has like way over trillion parameters in there. BERT models have like, even they have like multi-billion or trillion parameters in there. When you have such large models, that's when in like the whole data science engineering side of the world started looking at how can we make things more efficient now. So that's where the concept of low rank adaptation to machine learning came into the picture. Like, let's do something where we can further make it easy to be used. Because if you want to use large foundational models right now, it requires a lot of resources. Right? And if you want to build your use cases and businesses on top of those large models, you have to consume a lot of specialized AI hardware, which requires a lot of money. So I think that need for optimization and efficiency kind of drove more research towards like, how do we do this for AI as well?
What do you think, like which other fundamental thing will pop up as like the driver of innovation next? So as you said, these concepts have been around for a while, but something in the whole, say, economics standards or tech environment or just general innovation going in a certain direction and us trying to make it all efficient and everything, these factors should be affecting other fundamental concepts as well, right? So I think this will go. Like, for example, low rank adaptation is something that has been around for a while, right? So what other aspects of AI do you think are going to accelerate suddenly like this?
I think the majority of, I feel, you can say, innovation, I feel is going to happen is how to make this much more efficient and accessible.
Do you have a favorite theory that you want to accelerate out of nowhere?
I don't know. So one thing is that we'll see that the foundational models are going to continue to improve. Like whether it's OpenAI doing it, whether it's Microsoft doing it, Azure doing it, Anthropic doing it, they all are working on making the foundational models more and more intelligent. So we'll even get to an era where they can pretty much do everything, right? They will pretty much have knowledge for everything. So I feel that there will be two parallel waves of innovation, or you can say parallel paths of innovation, where these large companies are continuing to innovate on what these models can do, and maybe even we get to AGI, where we actually have an AI which can actually be like human and even better than human. So I don't know what happens when we get to AGI. But
you can make a game about it.
We can make a game about it, yeah. That will be pretty cool. I think if an AGI happens, then we will all be in the game.
Yep.
But I think parallelly, there is an opportunity that while these large companies are building and making the foundational constructs of AI much more intelligent and like almost like human, how we can do innovations in making these or using these foundational models, how can we make things which is much more efficient, simpler, accessible to everyone?
Right.
I mean, we would get into an era that anybody with no technology background, just with a thought and idea, should be able to build something.
Right. So, like, how does Initialize do it? Like, how do you incorporate such concepts like LoRa adapters and other techniques into your workflows to make things more accessible, as you said?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think I would say we at Initialize we're still early. We're still at the early stages, and think of it as we're building Lego blocks at this point. Our goal, our like North Star vision, is that we become a platform which is so simple that you can come in and have an idea, and you're able to leverage the abstraction of infra to build upon that idea. So low rank adaptation and small language model is one of the things which we are doing quite a bit of work in, because it extends the ability to leverage the same resources which you might have for many use cases. Instead of using a lot more resources for different use cases you might have, different ideas you might have, you could use same amount of resources to kind of build more applications.
Can you give some specific examples, like application-based? Like,
Yeah, for example, I am an organization or like I'm just building something where it reads through legal documentation and understands what's in that document and give you a summarization view of that legal document. It also, you might also have as part of that particular, say, startup, an idea or app which you're building, that it might give you some legal advice. And then you might also have scenario where it generates a press release sort of statement of what you're trying to do. Right? So now these are like 2 or 3 different use cases within the domain of legal. If I want to get the foundational model to do these things, I might have to fine tune it with my specific legal data, right? And if it is like specific to that legal sector of data. Now, if I do that for 3 different use cases, I'll have to do these training 3 times for these large models. And I have to run them as large models, which will require, say, for example, if this foundational model I'm using requires 8 GPU, I'm just making it out like 8 GPU. We might use smaller one with 4 GPU. Now, for these 3-4 models, you might spend 12 to 16 GPUs of resources to keep on running it. It's not just training it after you train it to run it. With the construct of low rank adaptation, I could use one large foundational model and I could fine tune my use cases for smaller adapters, like one for document summarization, one for just generation of press release, one for giving legal advice,
right,
and use the same foundational model. And I might be able to run this whole thing within 4 to 8 GPUs. Right? So it enables a particular idea to have different categories and still be able to use less resources to do more.
Right. So, going by the legal person case only, what do you think would be the ROI of this exercise and like using that platform? And also, how likely would someone be to end up in jail if they follow something like that?
Yeah,
because hallucinations still exist.
It does, and it's a very well-known, interesting case where somebody was doing this legal case where the lawyer actually used ChatGPT to ask the question that this is the case, I want to refer this particular case. Is there any reference I can use from any previous cases? ChatGPT actually made up a case and gave it to them that referred to this case. In fact, that actually lawyer asked, can you verify that this is a real case? And ChatGPT said, yeah, it is a real case. And they went to the court and found out that it was actually not a real case, it was a made up case. So there are implications around that. And that's where the construct of fine-tuning is there.
Right.
That instead of just using the foundational model, and I think these foundational models are improving every day. So the hallucinations which you see today, in next 6 months, they will be way more better and you won't see that. But I'm not saying that it's going to get to 100%,
right,
but they'll keep on improving. But you got to fine tune to make things work as per your particular use case so that you don't get into that kind of scenario. So you have to build those guardrails, you have to build those use cases to fine tune it.
Speaking of guardrails, like, can you give us like a few examples of the ones that Initialize follows so that you ensure that your system is like completely observable and transparent?
Yeah, so
that such hallucinations don't happen.
Yeah, so we're at the early phase where we're building the Lego blocks right now. From the guardrails perspective, right now, what we are trying to achieve is create the visibility. In fact, like instead of just ourselves creating the guardrails, we are giving the information that what's happening so that you can start building guardrails on top of that or guardrails around it. So the thing which we are doing parallelly with, like for example, if you wanted to fine tune a loader adapter on our platform, you can do that, but we inject end-to-end observability into that so they can see that whatever you're doing, what was the outcome of it. So the things which you have asked a particular model, logs around that, the metrics and traceability around that, we bring that to the platform so that you can have the visibility on what's happening. And based on that, you can kind of build your next, whether it's putting some guardrails because you saw that it was hallucinating or there was some prompt injection or whatnot. You can build those things by getting those observability information. Eventually, we might start building some guardrails which users can use out of the box. But this is like, as I said, we're building Lego blocks. Our North Star is to get to a point where it's so simple that you don't have to actually build any of these. You can just use these Lego blocks, put it together, and build your own castle, whichever way you want to.
Yeah, so as you said, that Initialize is still in the very beginning.
Right.
But like still you must have a vision, right, for Initialize and how you wish to go into the whole AI space. So like, what is your vision? Like, where do you want to end up? Because when you started Initialize, I don't know if you imagined it, but you started from software deployment, right?
Right.
And now you are in AI and like, where do you see yourself going with this?
I think if I have to think about like how it might look like when we hit our North Star, I'm not sure. I think the AI is evolving so much that I don't know exactly what we will have in 6 months or a year or in 5 years, right? In fact, in the age of AI, 1 month is almost 1 year. It's almost like if you've seen Interstellar. If you go to that planet or wherever they went to, it was like 1 hour is equal to 1 year or 13 years or 7 years on Earth.
Yeah.
So it's almost like that in the AI world. What I feel that we will continue to pursue is the construct of simplicity. How do we get it to a point that instead of thinking about it from technology perspective, people who are using Initialize will think in terms of, I have an idea, I can build it by just maybe even just interacting with the platform. It could be by voice, it could be by typing something, but it could be eventually maybe just thinking about it and it will do it, right?
Okay.
We are in the era where we are even looking at the brain interface and neural brain interface sort of scenarios where you might even think about something and something will do something for you, right? Platforms will do something for you.
That is very scary though.
It is scary, but I don't know. I think as civilization, we might evolve and it becomes a normal thing. I mean, who would have known that everybody in this world will carry a phone which is as powerful as a supercomputer back in 70s in their pockets, right? But so in 30 years, we have evolved, almost 30 years, we've evolved into a species which cannot live without this device, right? So you never know. We will get to a place where it will be normal to have a chip on your head.
Fair. Very possible. That's very interesting, and it was really exciting to think about, where this goes and where Initialize would go. So thank you so much for coming here today, and yeah, it was a great conversation. Hope you had fun too.
Yeah. Great to actually do this in person, face to face with you, Nakshi.
Build on Initialize. Try it today.